All right, welcome Team Tinker. We're going to go ahead and start, and I'm going to introduce myself in a minute here. But first, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Some of you are out of school, and appreciate you joining us today. So my name is David Kleinhans. I'm a K through 12 educator, formerly who's now on the professional development team at Tinker. And with me, I have Sean, and Sean, I'll let Sean introduce himself.
Yeah, hi everyone. Welcome. I'm a longtime teacher educator, so worked with a lot of teachers like yourselves, and yeah, now also working here with Tinker on the PD team. So excited to see everyone today.
So we'll go ahead and start. And just to get connected, if you would share kind of the grade level you teach, and we can do some customization to that when we kind of go through the Tinker platform, share where you're joining from, and maybe a summer must do. And so for me, maybe I'll start. Like I said, my name's David Kleinhans, joining from Chicago, originally from Canada. And this summer, I've got to swim in Lake Michigan early in the morning. There's kind of a swim club. I've done it historically, missed it last summer, and I've been thinking about it all winter. How about you, Sean?
Yeah, I'm also in Chicago, also from Chicago, so lifelong Chicagoan. So love getting out by the lake, love doing a cookout. Excited to open up the grill here, maybe this weekend even. So summer must do for sure.
And there's if any attendees want to jump in on the chat, there's a chat on the bottom usually of your Zoom toolbar, generally in the left middle. You're please weigh in, introduce yourself to the team. And while that's going on, I'm going to share a little bit about what Tinker is. And one of the things that if you'd like, you can also share in the chat is your email address if you'd like a premium account. We're going to allow you to log in today to create a Tinker account, and you don't have to. We're going to model the activities. But if you want to have a premium license for a 30-day period, so to unlock all the features we're going to show, we can definitely make that available. So go ahead and put your email in the chat, and Sean will go ahead and do that. But so what is Tinker? Tinker is a multi-platform full K through 8 coding AI experience. So we have block and text coding. We have a full suite of curriculum, both CS and interdisciplinary curriculum. And we also have a lot of teacher tools such as automatic assessments, an online gradebook, progress monitoring, lesson plans, and many classroom management tools. And so instead of talking about it, I think it's almost best just to jump in and show it a little bit. And we're going to show the full gamut here. And I'll probably start with the two ends. If we kind of think of Tinker as a sandwich, we have kind of the K through 2 starter point, which we call Tinker Junior. And I'm going to just jump into that so you can see it. So what is Tinker Junior? It's an app that's available on all iPads via the Apple Store, as well as there's an Android Play Store version of it. And this app is particularly well suited for pre-readers in maybe a school environment where K through 2 or K through 3 aren't given access to browsers as well, and they have a mobile device. And so what app you're going to use for Tinker depends on a lot of things. The grade band you're going to teach, it depends on your school device policies, and then the curriculum that maybe lands best with your student. But I'll show you this just so you can see, and this is one of our kind of more popular courses. So with Tinker Junior, 10 courses come up, and right away we're brought into kind of a progression pathway. I'll jump back to one of the earlier modules.
Let's see who else lives in Treasure Cove. Connect the blocks to see who will meet next.
And here you see we have a block-based environment that doesn't require any reading or dragging and dropping for young programmers. So it's just kind of a tap interface.
Excellent! That's Jules the jellyfish.
So I've just created Jules the jellyfish. Maybe I'll move on to a little more difficult lesson.
Connect the blocks to see who will meet next.
And so here we have some scaffolding. I just don't have to fill in the one item that's missing. I have to actually build the starfish. I think it's Stella the starfish in sequence. And so if I start inappropriately, oops, the feet are at the top. I can click on that, hit delete, go back. Oh, here's what I want is top, middle, bottom.
Nice! Say hello to Stella the starfish.
Woot, woot, and then we get Stella the starfish. All right. And I'll go on, I'll do another one.
Complete this puzzle to meet one of Gilly's friends.
And here the students kind of have to do a little debugging. The puzzle started what appears by somebody else, and that puzzle piece is the wrong spot. So they tap on it, delete it. It gets set to their canvas at the bottom. Oh, we want to do top, middle, bottom.
Very nice. This is Sergio the surgeon fish.
Yes, it is. And then I'll go on a little further.
Try it on your own. Add the blocks in the right order.
And here now we start getting some sequencing and looping constructs. And we don't talk about them as that at this age, but we do see that there's a sequence of steps that have to be occurred for Jules to kind of navigate and collect the coins and move to the end of the maze. So the first one would be, hey, I want to go to the right. I want to go maybe to the right again. That's obviously wrong. And then up. Let's try that. Oops.
Oof, that hurt. Try going another way.
So that didn't work for us. Then I can move my blocks around, try again. And the students go ahead
Nice.
and complete the activity. So that's a little bit of Tynker Jr. I just wanted to spend a little time because sometimes it's easier to see it than talk about it. So you can see it's very storytelling based, gamified. For those young users, just a tap versus more sophisticated drag and drop interface, as well as no text on any of the blocks. And then in a minute, Sean's going to show kind of that middle band, which is third through fifth or sixth, where they do text-based block coding, and we'll see that in a minute. And we're also going to build projects on it later. And then we can move all the way to the end, where the platform is so robust that not only do we have the mobile apps available for Tynker and Tynker Jr., but we have a web-based platform for users grade bands that are grade 3 all the way up to grade 8. So let me go ahead and jump in. And here I'm jumping in as a student, and I'm going to go into our Python text coding. And so this would be for a more advanced set of students. We have some schools that start this in 5th grade, some wait to 7th grade, but you'll see some similarities even to what you saw in the K through 2. And just so you understand, as I said, we have kind of a variety of platforms. The first one I showed you was a mobile device platform. This is obviously a web-based platform. I came in through a browser, and all of these can be managed through one teacher interface, which we'll show in a minute. So if I go ahead and start, I will do one lesson, then I'll kind of move along to more complex lessons. So here I'm going to start at the very first kind of programming lesson. And what I see is an introduction to a command. I kind of have a gamified environment, then I have an inline coding window. And I've done some coding here before. I can start it from scratch. And as I start typing, and this is a valid Python command that you may use with Python if you're familiar with Tracy the Turtle or the Python environment. This isn't a Tynker specific thing. It's an industry-wide standard Python capability in terms of commands. I can tab to complete the command. I can run to see. There's a little autograder that checks and says, oh, I didn't reach my target. Got to get to the goal here. So obviously what I want to do is I want to do one more forward command. I'll just copy and paste that or type it, run that. And there I can go ahead. And now I have completed that activity. So many of the activities start that way. And it's a really good way to entice kids to get excited about coding. And I know when I was a CS teacher, I came out of the high school area and then kind of moved down. And one of the mistakes I made was not working on the enticement angle enough for kids. I thought just the fact that they were coding would be enough. And some kids feel that this is inaccessible to them. So having it gamified through a story makes it more appealing. I'm going to go to a much later chapter, which is on conditional loops, just to show you different activity types. So this is talking about what a while loop is, and we're not going to go through all of this, but this would be a student section, and it says, hey, here's some code that the students can run that will print as long as I is less than 10, which is a variable that they increment. And they can see in the right a little console, and they can run another activity. And these activities, they can actually change. They can start at 0, and now they start at 0 and count up and then have lift off. So the experience gets more sophisticated and graduated as the students move on. And for those who are wondering, it says, hey, my students are pretty far along in their coding journeys. Um, Let me find one here. We have activities where we actually will throw you in a full IDE, which represents an integrated development environment. So here's a Python environment with kind of 3 panes. One, which shows us the files that are included. Two, the code here, and I can make that a little bigger so that people can see. And I'm importing the Turtle library, and that's one of the strong capabilities of Python is all the libraries you can access. And then I'm changing the background color to green and having the turtle perform an action, a little tutorial here on what should be occurring. Oh, I got to move the turtle forward 100. I can copy that code over. Oh, I don't like the spot it's in. Maybe I'll move it down here. And then I can go ahead and play and see a console window. So my background did turn to blue. I didn't draw a square yet, but I drew the first. Now I have to turn. So the goal here isn't to complete the assignment, but it's to show you kind of the breadth of kind of coding and interface capabilities we offer from very early grade levels to much higher grade levels. So let me go back. And that's a little bit of what we're trying to illustrate with these next 3 slides. You'll see that, for Tynker Junior, we have great resources. You saw some of the pre-reader activities with that Ocean Odyssey. We have 31 block coding courses for the intermediate band, which we'll see in a minute. 500-hour of code challenges and many more projects, and then 11 text coding courses, and you saw a little snapshot of one there. And in addition to these core curriculum courses we have a lot of projects, and a lot of the projects are theme-based. We have NASA-based, Barbie-based, do-it-yourself projects, projects on AI and machine learning, and physical device projects as well, and electives around microbits. So kind of a full gamut of curriculum that is also CSTA standard compliant. And one of the things that you'll see that excites the students, and if I said, hey, what excites the students about the class is this. It's scenario driven, it's fun and engaging. And one of the things that they like is it's self-paced and there's no experience for the teacher or the student. You don't have to be a subject matter expert to start with Tynker. You can jump right in, learn along with the students, and in a minute we'll show what are some of the teacher tools that we have available. But I'll go ahead and pause here. And what I'd like to do is to show you how to start so that you can do this with me. So as I said, you can go ahead and you can just watch, or you can be an active participant if you have another browser window or monitor open, and you can work along with Sean and I. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just at the tynker.com website, and I'm going to click login. If you don't have an account, you can still click login, and then you just click on the sign up tab below. And if you do that and share your email with Sean, he will grant you a trial access so you can have the full scope of the curriculum to look at, K through 8, as well as all the teacher tools. All right. And I see some people have done that, so that's great. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sign in as a teacher. And the goal here is to show you like how we start. You saw me navigate and move through these different environments, but what would a teacher do when they sign in? So I'm going to sign in with Google, but we are integrated with Clever and ClassLink. So if you like to launch from a launchpad or your school has one of those integrations, that's possible, Microsoft or Apple, or you can just have a regular email. I'm going to authenticate with Google, give it access. And then once I do this, I'm going to be brought to my teacher dashboard. And there's a lot here to look at on the teacher dashboard. So let me start with the left pane first. The left pane is our menu or navigation area. So I have a little bit about myself, the profile, the My Classroom tab is what's highlighted on the dashboard first. I can see active classes. I can tab over to archive classes from previous years. We show 3 classes by default. I can open that up. I have 17 classes around a variety of topics that are available, and I can look at that. And then below, there's the Resource Center, which we're going to talk about at the end. You can have a little dashboard tour of what you're looking at and a little bit about professional development. But then we also have featured activities and apps. And so here we're featuring right now some STEM activities, and it's a good time after the Artemis launch and touchdown not too long ago at the end of the school year. And then we have what we call weekly projects. They're really 3, sometimes 4 a month that come out, and they're seasonal. They're based on things that are going on. So Father's Day is the next big holiday. And so there's a project that we built that can be introduced to students. And if they're in summer school or in a coding camp, this is something that they can work on. And so this will change on a weekly basis. Thanks so much, Sean. And then on the right, like what apps? And as I said, we have a Tynker Junior app and a Tynker app, and these are really grade band specific. Tynker Juniors for the pre-readers. Tynker is what you see today. So what we do with Tynker, we can also do on the web. And I would say most of our school users use the web-based platform, and Tynker is more for the home use, the Tynker app. So I'm looking at my dashboard, and if you log in, you won't have any classes. So how do we remedy that? The first thing we would do is we would click on the Add Classroom button. And it asks, how do you want to roster your students or enroll your students? So if you had an integration with your school with Clever or ClassLink, you would see a different button here. I'm set up as a Google authenticated user and I use Google Classroom. And so it's prompting me with that. But you don't need any of that. I can just say, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and do my own class. So click on the white below. And then I get this dialog screen. And I'm just gonna pick elementary and pretend it's a 3rd grade class. And what radio button you pick here just changes the sort order of the curriculum on the following screen. It makes the curriculum appropriate to your age more visible. It's all still there, so it's not the most important radio button, it's just a guide. And then here I'll say this is our getting started with Tynker webinar. So I know what this is, and I'll say this is my grade 3, and I'll continue. And then it says, great. What do you want to do next? Do you want to publish a class code? I'll say, I'll go ahead and create a few Tynker accounts. And so I'll do 2. I can have it generate some default names, like my high school mascot was the Spartans. I could say the Oak Lawn Spartans or OL Spartans, and it would generate OL Spartans 1, 2, 3, but I'll go ahead and say create my own. And here's David. And then Dave at Tynker. And I'm going to put in my password here. And I'm going to do the same with Sean. And I'm going to go ahead and finalize these accounts. So now what I've done is I've added 2 students, and the only last thing I have to do, so I've picked a class, I've set up a classroom, I've rostered students, now it's time to add curriculum. And so it says, hey, here's some activities you may like based on the grade band, but I'm going to say, let's go ahead and explore the full curriculum. And so when I do that, I don't know if you noticed, but on the left, I went from my classrooms in the navigation pane to curriculum. And I have three sub-menu choices. I have my plan, which is my school's license plan. And so I'll choose that K through 8. We have some high school curriculum too. And then we also have Hour of Code. And so when I say K through 8, it starts giving me the curriculum. And so what grades? Well, I'm interested in grades 3 through 4. So it's kind of starts bringing that up. I can filter by subject. Maybe I'm interested in doing some I want to focus on platform. Like I only want curriculum that's web available. Okay, let's see what's available on the web. And then, a specific device. So I've done my filtering and then I'm going to pick, programming 101. That's going to be kind of our standard intro. We do have free curriculum, which just gives you like a quick snapshot of some of our courses, and they all start with 100 or multiples of 100. So programming 100 would be our free curriculum, and you would get a little slice of many different courses to explore. But I'll go ahead and say, let's assign programming 101. I can read more about it in the course overview, but I know we're going there later, so I'm going to skip that. I have it set up so that I have bilingual. I have a classroom that has students with English and Spanish. I'm just going to say English right now. I'm going to authenticate. And then after I do this, it'll allow me then to assign all those different lessons. So I'm going to give it a minute here. There we go. I didn't finish my Google authentication. Now we're good. Let me go back and say programming 100, assign, English. And then I can choose lessons. So this is how I can gate student progress. I'm going to say choose. If I do all, it would drop all 15 lessons and the students can work through the course at their own pace. And that can be fine for some environments. Tynker is really good for the classroom. It's also good for camps and after school clubs, and that's a great use. But here I kind of want to keep the team together a little bit. So maybe I'll do the first three. I'll say assign, and now the lessons were assigned. So what have we done? In that 10-minute window, we've built a classroom, we've rostered a couple students, and we have assigned the curriculum. And I'm going to pause here. We have a bunch of lesson planning resources and what would you use to prepare for a classroom. But I'm going to pause a minute, give Sean an opportunity to showcase what the student environment looks like. So I enrolled Sean as a student in this class, and he can project and share what this looks like. Sean, you ready to do a little sharing?
Yeah, let's go. So
Awesome.
we can hop in here. Yeah, so similar to what Dave was at, to actually get enrolled as a teacher, students can start from the same page. If you set them up with accounts, they can log in, go to student here is what we're logging in as. And I'm going to choose Shauna Tynker. So now I can see my class that Dave got us set up in, but this homepage is what every student will see when they go in. They'll see if they're in more than one class, they'll be able to choose between the classes they have available. They'll have, in the upper right, information about their account and preferences, which we can take a look at later. They can also enroll in another class. So if you've set it up and you got the class code, you can provide it to them that way if they already have accounts out here. But yeah, I'm going to click in to get started. I'm in programming 101. So I have the cabinet here, is what we'll refer to this as under lessons. I can see I have 3 lessons available. So I can just hop right in and get started. So this is are high level. You do have the option to mute things, so I'm gonna turn that off to make it a little easier to talk around. But we got to tell Cody in our little activity here, our little puzzle, how to get to the jelly bean. So like we saw in Tinker Jr., we're going to have some blocks out here. Unlike Tinker Jr., this is going to have words on it. So I see I need to go 2 steps, it looks like. But if I just did the one, like maybe I'm just learning, I know I need to walk. I can try and play that and see. And we'll see. Oops. We didn't feed Cody. So in this case, I need to use walk to move forward, but we need to move a little bit more than we did. So let's add one more block. It leaves me right where I left off, which is nice and easy. And I can run. And we'll get a nice little, if you had your sound on, a nice little crunch. When students finish, it'll give them some stars. They have to try really, really hard to get less than 3 stars, but it is possible, especially on the more complicated programs. Gives them time and some little XP just to kind of tie into that gamification and encouragement. So this time we got to go 4, it looks like, so we can do that. One kind of cool thing we can point out in these puzzles is in addition to the code, which we can drag and drop, you can view this code in other languages. So if they're going to later on get into Python or get into JavaScript, they can get familiar with the syntax of it, even though it's still block text by dragging and drop or by setting these different features down at the bottom here. We even have Swift as well. And then you also have in the bottom right a zoom in, zoom out. So to make it a little easier to read what they're working on. If they need to be reminded of the puzzle they're trying to solve, they can also minimize the program here and then bring it back out again. Yeah, we'll try and run. We move forward and we get our candy. And so you kind of progress through these. They'll get added different little steps as they go. In this case, we got to jump. So we learn that command. So we can walk a few times and jump. If we throw something in here extra, you can grab blocks out. If you grab from the right, it'll pull out just that block. If you grab from the left, it actually moves everything underneath that block. So that's a handy little feature in here. And I can rearrange them, or you can drag to the left to get rid of extra blocks as well. And I think I counted that right. Nice. So, we get into concepts like loops at this point. So if we have to go a couple different steps, we can hop into that. So I can see here, I got to do this a couple times to get the extra candy. Or no, I just got to repeat a certain number of times. So we can count up 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay. So 9 is right. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't testing me. And so, things kind of advance through here. To kind of get a little hop ahead, because I think we got a few more of these in this lesson. They can always back out. It'll actually show you where you're at. You can see here, Dave unlocked the first 4 lessons, so I can hop ahead to a different lesson because of that. And I can say, go into there's some stories, and then it'll show previews of like other projects. I'm curious if any of them have a little sooner. Yeah. So we'll get introduced as they're going to Dr. Ada here, I think, right? They'll get to learn about special blocks of code with the little stories here. So we're going to be teaching Cody how to talk. And you can kind of click through. So, and the narration can tell them at the top here. So it's kind of explaining all the different pieces. And then we will get little buttons here to kind of explain a little bit more what different things do. So here's the say block, will be text coming out of a character. You have say for a certain amount of time, and then just a bubble that stays there and won't disappear. And it'll kind of demonstrate for us here. So it's really nice, interactive, lets students kind of progress and learn at their own pace. So I just gotta click versus clicking on them. And then there's also like a thought bubble option. So we have to click through both of these to kind of get ahead. So here we can say what our bubble is. And it'll tell us a couple different shapes. So here you can actually customize if it's rectangular, rounded, different styles, even a thought bubble option. Or thinking does the same thing. And there's even a shout. All right, so I think we get to this. Here we go. So we got a speech bubble lesson here. We hit stop. Here we have an actual project. And so this is going to be the much more involved, like more customizable, more intense of what the students will get to actually like build and work in the IDE. So in this one, Ada meets Glitch, her nemesis here. Um, we'll have maybe a little preview of what the interaction's supposed to be, which is what we just watched, but you can rewatch it. And then on the left-hand side here, it's going to go through step by step what we need to be doing in this project. So on the left is the little tutorial of it all. You can drag blocks out of this. It'll actually present to you what you need to put in. Grab another block, in this case, the say block. And then we can say what we want to do for a couple different points. And then you can say what you want the actor to say. So you actually click in the box here for where you're going to type and say, and so this is set for on start. It's going to start this in the program and we can kind of progress through. So as students go through, they're going to go through the steps. If you notice here, I can't actually click next here because I haven't added the required blocks to the code. So it kind of keeps them focused on whatever part of the task they're in. So I can do another on start. I can say, in this case, we're waiting 4 seconds because our first character is talking for 4 seconds first, and then have them say something else. And then we can try it out. So it gives us the opportunity to preview it right from here. Oh, let me try that again. There we go. And it just has a fun little conversation. Obviously, you can code a lot more, and students can play around with it, but this kind of gets you going. We can make it move, stop, and have them maybe move even more. It says to try negative numbers, so I can have them walk back and forth. So yeah, just nice, straightforward. Back and forth does not move very much. So we could try bigger numbers if you wanted to be more dramatic. So, and this is kind of the idea where if students play around with this, get excited, they can learn how the program actually works just by using it. So I can see like, okay, well, 10 pixels wasn't very much. So I can kind of play it here. See, okay, we moved a little more. He slowed down a little bit. I can preview it to actually see the full size here. and you kind of advance from there. So you can end the conversation. And we get to the end. And at that point, the students can try it out, see what they like. But you can also have them play a lot more and like go in and actually add more code to this. It's a completely interactive environment. They have the option here in the upper left to close the tutorial and have access to all the blocks that are available for this program and be able to add more that way. So definitely not just a like send them, let them get run to the end, submit. Students can definitely spend and dig into every single one of these projects. When they finish a project, which I'll save this one, they'll then have the option to share them out as well. So I can have access to all the things I've completed so far. I can hop back into any previous lesson. So if I wanted to re-see some of those examples, the navigation here allows them to do that, as well as hop back into previous lessons as well. Everything else on the student side here, you do have announcements students can see. So in the stream here, I could see Dave, Mr. K actually shared a new assignment, the Storytelling 101, lessons 1 through 4, which is where I got to hop in. If you share just a general announcement, students will see it here as well. And there's also even like a space for comments. So and we'll let Dave see where those come back later. But you can kind of go back and forth that way. In addition, you have projects. So if I ever want to go back and work on, for example, my Mr. Glitch project that I was just doing, it actually shows up here once I save it. So any project that I worked on that way will be here. We're going to see later on the bigger projects that we can assign out will also show up here as well. And then the upper left, you do have students do have access to the games side of Tynker. But there's a setting where you can disable that for outside of school hours only. And it'll be grayed out until after like 3:30 your local time. But this just is an area for them to explore more coding options. It's got its own little path for them to explore. There's special games and apps in here that are coding based. And then under Minecraft, they also have a lot of cool things they can explore in building and customizing mods in there. But we can always hop back to school here. And when they're all done, they can obviously log out. Anything else you wanted to hit on for student side stuff here, Dave?
That looks great. And
Awesome.
the only thing I echo is what you said is the go to games is really
Yeah.
teacher and school controlled. It's do you want to allow them to continue the journey after school? And if not, they won't see that. And so you have control over that.
Yeah, there's kind of 3 levels to it, basically, right? They either have access after school, or all the time, or not at all. You can have it disabled completely as well.
Exactly. Thanks so much. That was great.
Awesome, no problem.
All right, so I'm going to jump back in. So we just you saw the teacher creation, you saw like the student activity where Sean modeled what a student would do, and now what resources are available. And so you saw Cody kind of work through and learn what coding and programming is and just introduced to solving puzzles. So there's some resources available for that. So if I go ahead and I click on the lesson plan, we will see a full lesson plan. And I'll also show you again on the left, we're in the curriculum area. We get the sub menu. The overview is where we're at, all the different lessons. And I can run a lesson from here, which is good to project to the classroom if I want them to watch me or work along. I can print my lesson plan, but the lesson says 60 minutes. And most of our lessons are targeted for 45 to 60 minutes. And it will show generally what are the blocks that are going to be introduced. So it gives a little overview and introduction. And then, hey, here's some of the blocks they're going to see. And if I've used other platforms in my teaching journey, and one of the things I liked about the Tynker platform is it doesn't expose all the blocks at once. Like I've jumped into other products where the full left side has thousands of blocks, and that's good for somebody who's pretty sophisticated, but it can be daunting to somebody who comes in and is trying to work in a new environment. So you can review with the students ahead of time, these blocks. The teacher will be exposed to them and what they do. You'll also be introduced to some vocabulary. So the actors like Ada and Glitch, what a loop is, a repetitive action. And so you'll see these can be introduced ahead of time, the objectives for the lesson, the materials. This isn't a physical device lab, so it's pretty easy. They just need, a device and some kind of mouse access. And then there's warm-up activities. So a lot of these can be unplugged. So you tell students, let's model what coding is and what it looks like. And the classic one is walk forward until you touch something, like to give people the instructions. And if you don't tell them to stop, if you don't tell them how many steps to take, they're really not going to know what to do. And so some of these unplugged activities are a great way to start class. And then these are the online activities you saw Sean tackle. So he did a great job picking up the candy, getting the gumdrop, doing some repetition and jumping. And so you can see all those activities. And then at the end, there's some differentiation. So you can extend these activities, or for your fast flyers, give them something else to do. So these lesson plans exist for each of the individual lessons in that 15 lesson course. So not only are there lesson plans, let's look, there's some highly visual presentations. So one of the things you also I like about Tynker is kind of the visual appeal of it for students. So in Programming 101, I can go ahead and I can look at these different slides and see what we're going to do. And the teacher can present these. So in the lesson plan, we saw what blocks, the teacher can introduce them ahead of time, can talk a little bit about what blocks are, or let students experience it. I've seen teachers do both and then come back and do a review. So this can be like, these can turn into exit quizzes, or next day, let's talk a little bit about what we did. And then they show common mistakes. Here, the blocks have to be connected. So third graders, maybe they have them in sequence, but they're not connected, like Legos or puzzles. And so we can kind of go on, and I'll go through. And then in these lessons, just like the lesson plan, there's a little warm-up activity. So this is the unplugged activity we were talking about, and they use Cody as an example. Like, how would I get that piece of candy? I'll go through a little more. An if-else example. So taking complex concepts and really simplifying them. And again, more warm-ups. So this exists for all the lessons. So we have the lesson plan, the teacher presentation that they can opt to use or not. The student view, you saw Sean jump around as a student. This mirrors the student view. And I can jump into one of these lessons. I'm going to just command tab so I keep my window here. And oh, I'm in the same lesson Sean was. So that's good for if the student says, hey, I'm struggling with lesson number 5, I don't get it, you can project as the teacher and you can jump right into that lesson. The standards that are covered, US, UK, and then finally the answer keys. So for what we did here, pretty simplistic, but as we move on and we have online quizzes and they move to more text-based coding, even some of the more sophisticated blocks, it's nice for the teacher to have the answer as a resource so that they can see. So those are some of the materials that are available. All right. So I think kind of we've done a lot. So we had some slides here, but I'm going to quickly bump through um, and get to this one. So what have we done so far? We've given a big overview of the platform. We've also built a class, modeled the student experience, and showed some of the teacher resources. All right, and I'll show the teacher tools in a minute, but when we pick the curriculum, one of the questions is, well, there's a lot there. How do I find the right content? And so we've tried to simplify this, and we can share some of these links here. I'll go ahead and copy this link address and I'll throw it in the chat. This is grades 3 through 5. And if I go ahead and I open that, I'm just going to command click on it. This will give me a representation of the curriculum that we have for grades 3 through 5. So we were looking at Programming 101. Dragon Spells is one of our most popular courses. That's also available. That Programming 101 are the two most popular courses for third grade. Talks a little bit about what the activities are. 102, that can be a second quarter or semester, and as they move along. And you can see here that we have both coding courses, and you'll see in each of these grade levels, we have artificial intelligence courses. And that'll be the last project Sean and I do. I built a little artificial intelligence project right around the Artemis launch. And, Sean and I will model how teachers and students would use a project like that. There's also digital literacy, all about computers, and many interdisciplinary lessons. So I can look at social studies, English, life science, and code in any of those classes. So if you're interested in a specific grade level, you can grab, and we'll share the slides after and the recording. You can kind of grab these curriculum maps to help you kind of navigate and focus in on what other similarly situated teachers and schools are doing when they teach with Tynker. All right. So that's on the curriculum and instruction side. Let me go back to the My Classrooms button. And this will display my teacher dashboard of all the classes that I teach. I'm going to say, let me see all these classes. Here's the one that we've done. I'm going to say, let's view that classroom. In my dashboard, I had a lot. Like if you're teaching, one class as a teacher, that's great. But we have a lot of teachers that teach every grade level at multiple schools. So they have a lot of classes that they keep track of in here. And when I first come in, this screen becomes more impactful as I move through the semester. So I'm always prompted with, hey, there's something else you could do. Go look at this. The latest class activity, like what my students are up to. I can go to their lessons, projects that are available, any certificates that are earned. Down here, I can see course completion, how are we doing? And then I've only assigned a few lessons. So, Sean went through one of them pretty good. And then for my two students, their concept mastery, nothing yet, they're not that far along. But in addition to this main dashboard, and I can show you another one just by going up here to see maybe one that's a little more filled out. This is actual a group of Tynker employees here at CodeHS where they're going through Tynker and learning. You can see, this is what it'll look like, when we're a little farther along in the journey. All right, so let me jump back to our class, the one we're working on. And when I go into my teacher dashboard for my classes, not only do I have this main screen, which is just a good kind of state of the day where I'm at, I can go back to the lessons area to assign additional content. And we've worked in this screen already when we assign curriculum. But I also wanted to show you there's a grade book, which kind of helps for progress monitoring. So you can see the work that I've done, in this course. So I jumped ahead a little. You see what Sean did today. And I only see up through the modules that I assigned. So we can see there's color coding available here. I can click on any of the grades and I can say, oh, Sean's 412. Which ones didn't he do? Oh, he, quit early, didn't do repeat the pattern, sequence repetition. And I can take a more detailed look at what Sean's done. Also in this lesson progress, I can look at quizzes. So I went ahead and done some quizzes in this class. Sean didn't do any today in front of you. Concept mastery, what standards that these cover. So if I want to look at, hey, in Programming 101, what were the standards? Well, there was, here's what I covered in that. And then an attendance. Like, was the student available? Were they logged in? And I don't think many people use Tynker as an attendance platform, but it's great to, hey, you're a teacher, maybe a tech coordinator walking around, and you're like, oh, was that student here last time? You can use the attendance to say, oh, everybody was here at 6:04 except for Mario. Mario missed that day. Oh, so now you know that when you come in next week. And then finally, the Students tab, which allows you to do basic work on your students. You can add or delete students, change how they authenticate, change their password, add guardian information so they can share projects with their guardians. And then we have QR code capability, both with Clever and ClassLink and also with Tynker. So if you want to build a binder of laminated quick passes, you can do that here. And here's the Tynker Smart Pass that the student would hold in front of the camera to log themselves in. So this represents some of the teacher tools that are available. So that's the main environment for curriculum and the teacher dashboard. I'm going to switch gears now, and I'm going to go to the projects area. And one of the real kind of powerful aspects of the platform, and I see some teachers do it, some teachers like to build their own curriculum. And so they'll create projects that represent what they want to teach, or they'll use existing projects that we have. So when you click on the My Projects area, what am I looking at here? These are all projects that I've either created or remixed or thought somebody else did something interesting and copied it over. There's other tabs here that let me look at games that are available in apps, text coding projects if I have any, and any that I've shared. So here's a couple that I've shared. I'm going to do another one today. But if you wanted to create a project, you just would click on the blue icon, and you have a lot of choices. You can pick game design, and those are really neat because you'll be able to have multi-levels. So if a student completes one action, like Cody climbs up a ladder, it'll jump to another level. And that's where a lot of students start when they get introduced to computer science. When they say, what do you want to do? They say, I want to build a game. And so in this platform, you can do that. You can also look at STEM and AI. So you can work with some of the NASA projects we've co-developed, artificial intelligence. I'll show you that in a minute. And there's some great physics ones as well. And then there's language specific as students move along, what you're going to do with Python. They can preload some math libraries, JavaScript, HTML, Java, and so on. So, you can start with any of these projects, but I went ahead and so I started a project just by doing this. I'll just go show you. I wanted to build an AI project. And so I say, okay, let me go to a blank workspace. What type do I want? Well, I was interested in doing a machine learning one that would look at my body and based on how I moved my body, launch a space shuttle to the moon. So I would select body detection and start project. And now I'm in that same environment that you saw Sean in a minute ago. And it gives me some default blocks because I told it I wanted it to start body detection. So it says, hey, when you're ready, go ahead, turn on your video, start body detection, and show it. So I'll go ahead and I'll just play it. It won't do much yet, but it'll show me in the video and it'll recognize, oh, these are your shoulders, these are your hands, eyes, nose, mouth. And as I move around, there's an AI-based machine learning capability within the platform that will track my movement. And so I said, okay, that's cool. So now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and build a project around this. So I'll save this. And this is getting started with Tynker project. I'll just save it. And it says, great, okay, I've saved that project and I'm ready to work on it later. Well, now some of the things I can do is I can say, well, I'm a teacher and I want my students to go ahead and I want them to have a lunar stage here so that when I raise my right hand, I'm going to launch a rocket to the moon. So I'm going to need some actors. So what the teacher can do is they can click on this tutorial on the left, and it comes up with a choice that says, do you want to build a tutorial based off of this? Yes, I do. And so it builds that tutorial view you saw Sean work with in a minute ago. And so now I can say, well, let's go to our media asset library and I can add a video, I can upload an image, but this little folder here says I can go ahead and add assets from our library. And so I'm going to go ahead and search. Oh, I got to search by background or space. And I can search for any object that I want. Well, let me hit enter. And I can see these different objects and I can go ahead and I can add them in. And so I'm going to take these default ones and say, oh, maybe, I'd want this one. And so now I would say, okay, that's the background that they would see for the stage. And then I type in action, add this background. So you're telling the student to go search and find that background. I'd hit the plus and say, add an actor. And so I would go ahead and say, let's go ahead and add an actor. So I'll go to the media library again. I'm going to grab Cody. Here's Cody right here. All right. And so I've went ahead and I added that actor and it threw in some default code for me. I'm probably going to delete that later, but it's a good starting point and say, make Cody run. And I'm going to stop here because I've already built one and I want to show you what that looks like. But I wanted to show you how easy it was to go from just jumping in to starting like a project on your own. And I'll show you the real simple one I built and then how you would save it with your students. So I built this one 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And I did the same thing. I said, well, go ahead and add an Earth Moon stage and add a space shuttle actor. And so the person who's doing this would have to say, oh, Mr. K, the student would explore around. Well, how do I change what's on my stage? I'm going to give this to Sean in a minute and he'll do it, but he would say, add a background, and he would start looking for that particular background. I'll close my media library. And then how do I get this space shuttle actor? He would go ahead and do add actor. And when they're done, I would say draw these blocks over. So as a teacher, I built this tutorial and I just built up. It says you got to have everything over. So I'll grab these over. And it says, now as a teacher, I have these other blocks I have to add, which will be added to an actor. So I built something that I want my students to try out, and then they can go ahead and modify it. So I'm not gonna save this. I'm gonna go back to my original project, and I'm gonna say, okay, I built this. I think it's ready, and I think it's cool, and my students would like it. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and say share. And I can go ahead and I can share that with a URL to a select group of students, or I can click assign and it says, where do you want to assign it? I'm going to assign it to the webinar and I'm going to say, try this cool AI launch project. And I'll assign this to Sean as a student and myself. And then I'll let Sean take over and show you what it looks like from his end on the student end when I assign a project that I built or somebody else has built. Sean, you ready to give it a shot?
Yep, let's do it. So let's see if it showed up. Yeah, we have our assignment here under the notifications that we see. Got our cool new project. So I could click into it here, or I can go into the class and back to the projects that we saw before. Probably just refresh. Nope. We'll go and do it through the assignment here.
It's in that projects cabinet on the other
Oh,
page.
you're right. Okay, yeah, under
Yeah,
lessons. Yeah,
class
sorry.
project. Yeah.
So yeah, class projects versus your individual projects. Class projects, there's my Artist AI all got a blank thing. Teacher gave me nothing. Okay, I guess I have to build this from scratch. So we gotta add our stage, add our actor. Okay. So I've done this before. I definitely can go in here, add my background. Let's see if we can find her. Maybe we want to find the moon is a little cleaner. There we go. All right. So I think it's this one without the rocket that we have different views, which is kind of cool. But we're going to go from the Earth to the moon, Earth, moon one. So now if I close out of this, I will now see my background is here. If I expand it, I have my work surface. And so then I also need to add what is clearly just a rocket, not a space shuttle. We'll go find that under media library, as you said. What's cool though is students can also build their own characters. So if they want to draw, especially if they have like pads or anything, they can do that. They can also upload if they have an image. Like if I wanted to actually go find a real space shuttle, I could add that image in here as well. But we'll just browse through the resources we have. I don't know. Got to go to space here. Let's see. Well, I guess they call this one a space shuttle, which is funny. Oh, here we go. That's the space shuttle. All right. So I'm going to do a little different, but we get the gist. So I can say, okay, I did this. I can go on to the next step. I need the rockets to take off. So thing to pay attention to when building is what actor or stage you're working in. So I can click on stage, but if I need the rocket to take action, well, for starters, I guess here I'm going to start the body detection, which can be on the stage. So I'll drag this piece by piece and hit next. And then for the rocket, we'll need to set in the space shuttle itself here on start forever. So we got a real fill in the blank challenge here. So we're going to wide. And then if not, we're going to go else. Okay. All right. Oh, here we go. We have our position. So here we need to figure out like what we're going to be measuring with the AI, right? So I can check if the position of the landmark. So we're going to say the Y position, which is our vertical XY coordinates, and our wrist is what we have in here. So we can actually insert this as our position that we're looking for in the block. And then we want it to be above a certain point. So you can see if I expand this a little bit just to make it visible here. There we go. Where my mouse is, it gives me some XY coordinates. So 0 is like right around the middle of the stage. So if I want it to be greater than that, that should be okay. You could also do greater than like a negative number in this case. So I could say maybe above negative 100, which would be looking about here. You can turn on a grid here as well to show you where those points are. All right. And so he's got all these other blocks here that's supposed to make our rocket, our space shuttle actually take off. we'll start from the surface and we'll give it a shot. So we're going to start a detection when we run the program. It'll show the detection so I can kind of keep track, and then it will, in theory, take off. So let's see if I know what I'm doing. So I will expand it here first, just to make it easy for you all to see. I'm going to hit play, and then let's see, did I do it right? Oh no. Oh, there we go. Hey, all right, and we went to the moon. So if I put my hand back down, it resets. And if I go back above that distance, it lasts off. So really cool, uses, like we said, the AI trained, like machine learning trained gesture recognition to see where my right wrist is, and then it'll take off depending on that. And so then obviously this is a very basic program, but you could totally have your students play with this way more. Like this, I can explore having it return, like fly back. So in the else statement, I can have it glide back down, or say if my left hand is in a different direction, it's time to return home, and have that set up as a separate if statement, maybe nested within the else. And all of that, you could go in, close the tutorial, start digging in. So definitely, if you build out these things, you can have your students explore more and more with them. So I can go and say, like I said, under controls, I could have another if else that gets nested in here and say if the Y position, oh, actually I can copy this and paste so I can actually keep track of the things I've already made. I want the maybe Y position of my left wrist to glide back to, let's say, the negative, or let's do positive 300, negative 250. So I can play around with that.
I think
Get
you
the,
forgot your green expression
oh,
editor.
did I?
Yeah, that's
Let's
okay.
stop
The
it.
light green. I was
Oh,
watching.
yep, duh. Okay. So I didn't copy the whole thing.
Nice.
All right. So now we can gesture. If my right hand's up, it goes there. My left hand's up, it'll glide the other way. So can take off in all sorts of directions this way. So you have obviously just even the 2 seconds I started thinking about this, I came up with a fun little thing, and your students can definitely come up with a lot more based off of that. You should remember to save. You do, by the way, have an autosave, so you can always recommend your students turn that on if they're worried about losing their work. And yeah, we did it.
And will you do me one
100%.
more favor? Go to your
Please,
projects now.
let's
And
do it.
then since you saved it, you have it
Yep.
there for further extension.
Yep. So I can both edit to go back in and play with it a little more. I can copy it if I want to leave the version I made for the assignment and then start spinning off different ideas with that. And then students have the option to share here too, where you can send it to their parent. If they have their parents' email in here, they can send it, or you can share that with their class to actually have the teacher approve and share in the gallery as well. And then if they just want to play with it, you use the play button here and it'll do the little preview. And we have our gestures going then too. We can fly around. So
Ooh.
awesome. And then similarly, just to point out, like Dave went in and actually built one as a teacher. But students have access to all the same projects as well. So they can, if they're feeling creative, they can hop in here and start making stuff from scratch themselves too, with a lot of the same basic frameworks that we saw. So, awesome.
Yeah, it's a great point. They can do that, build their own tutorial as well.
Yeah. There might be even a fun like end of class project or something, like a end of the school year, end of semester project for your students to make some challenges for the next group.
Exactly. For our folks at home, any questions, you can pop them in the chat. Otherwise, we're kind of coming to the end. We want to share some of the teaching resources that we have available, and there's a lot of them. So It's always best to just kind of show it. So again, on the left nav, we've covered most of what's here, but there's webinars are available. There's a really strong help center. So if you want to understand how to roster students, this is Cody, our mascot. Cody will tell you, oh, here, what's the quickest way? Oh, I use ClassLink. I use Clever, different ways. So the help system's available where you can look at that. The hour of AI and hour of code is something that's been going on for a number of years where you can run just like one activity for an hour for any class. And so this year, the hour of code theme was hour of AI. And so we had that available. And then we have it as well for text coding, STEM, and a lot of other projects. And then there's a bunch of tours that are available, little micro videos that just talk about like, hey, how do I go ahead and get started? And even pedagogy, like where do we go from here? Like what's a great way to spark collaboration, like do a code debate in class. So all of this is available here in the left-hand nav. And then somebody asked about the estimate for the cost for curriculum. It's really based on number of students, and neither Sean or I are in the sales department. But if it's number of students and curriculum, so if you want K through 12 curriculum, that's more expensive than just 9 through 12. If you want it for a classroom, that's obviously a lot less than a school. But the best thing to do is, let me see if I can find it. Like if
Uh,
you want to get
there's
a
a
good quote.
I just shared the link for
Oh,
requesting a
did you?
quote there.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. All right. Thanks, Sean. So then somebody from our revenue team can just email out like a quote and share some of the resources that are available. Any other questions? Then I would say let's two final things. In addition to kind of the sales support and the online help, we do have, full customer support where you can interact with a person, not an AI bot at schools@tynker.com. And it's somebody that, can help you, I believe I don't know where everybody's coming in from, but if I say, I think it's 7 a.m. Eastern time. We go almost till midnight Eastern time, US time, with somebody available. So we have, pretty robust coverage for our teachers early in the morning if there's a hiccup or a speed bump and end of the day.